Hey everybody! Jake Peters here. PS, this is awesome. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a special guest on the show and also a special co-host on the show who can't figure out his computer. But I'm doing the intro because Fred doesn't know how to use Google. So I'm gonna wing this. Actually, I'm just gonna read exactly what Fred reads every week. You ready for this? Good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and with me today, as always, is Mr. Jake Peters, and you are listening to PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 343. I'm not doing this. We also have LJ with us. LJ Ocker, famed fan of the show, and I don't know, commenter, what have you. He's been on the show before. LJ, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
I like your Orioles hat. I'm not a baseball fan, but I recognize the logo. Are you a baseball fan?
Very much so. I think I almost like it more than football these days.
So do you watch all 160 million games, or do you just tune in from time to time?
I bet I watch 40 to 50% of games, at least a large
So you
chunk.
still watch like 70, 80 games a year.
Yeah, I would say.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you watch like all the camp and all the bullshit in the preseason, or do you just watch the regular season stuff?
Mainly just regular season.
So I can't remember if Fred and I were lamenting this, or I guess more or less I was lamenting it. I have a hard time ever getting into baseball because coming in as a hockey fan, it's much more fast paced, and baseball has always been. And I like the sport, but as a spectator, it's always been kind of slow to me. It's kind of like golf. Like I love playing golf, watching golf is kind of difficult. Um, but the biggest problem for me as a fan is just there's so many games. It's like because they have to. We think we talked about this last week or the week before that. It was like in order to fit all those games in, you have to have all these like afternoon double headers and like all this weird shit that like, like are you watching a baseball game at Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Probably not. I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you're at work freaking watching baseball games. I have no idea, but it's kind of interesting. So I know Fred's a big baseball fan, and he probably agrees with you in terms of, I don't know, baseball stuff. But I don't know anything other than some of the logos. So congratulations on being a baseball fan. Do you have anything you would like to say other than that?
I think baseball is the most romantic sport. I think it's a slow burn. So yeah, you sit through those boring things, but when it happens, it feels so good. So if we're gonna like relate it to video games, I think sports like hockey and I'll say basketball are more like maybe Helldivers, where it's just action. You're just getting in there for 40 minutes for fucking killing people and whatever, killing bugs, whatever. Where I think baseball is more like a story-driven game, like Last of Us, or something, where like you're kind of trotting along and it's not always exciting, but those few moments you get along the way make it worthwhile.
I will admit that there are very few things. There are very few moments in sports that are as exciting as something like a grand slam per se, or like in football, when there's just like a gnarly drive when there's like 40 seconds left in the game or something like that. Like there are like, and I feel similarly about football, where it's like my biggest problem with football is just it's so much downtime in the game that I get bored very easily. But there are games that you watch and you're like, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen. And I imagine baseball is very similar, where it's like the tides can change so easily in that sport, where it could be, a team could be up by half a dozen runs, and then the team on the ropes can come back and score freaking 6 runs in an inning or something because of the way that the game is set up. And it's pretty crazy. Now, are the Orioles like historically as bad as the Pirates? I mean, I know they had the Cal Ripken years and all that, and they were, but I don't know anything about baseball. The Pirates are really bad though.
They're not as bad as the Pirates historically, but they're certainly not, one of the big dogs. I mean, they haven't won a World Series in my lifetime. They've kind of turned the course here recently, although since the All Star break, they've kind of sucked. But we just got a new owner for the first time in my life. And that's very freeing. And I hope for, as I grew up in Pennsylvania as well, a lot of my friends are Pirates fans, and I hope for their sake, Fred's sake, that y'all get a better owner because it's glorious.
Yeah, I imagine when the Pirates get a new owner, they will actually end up leaving Pittsburgh. Fred, what do you have to say about that?
I mean, I don't know. It just sucks. It sucks
No
to be a
way
Pirates
that
fan,
happens.
but I love them. Nutting's gonna have to die they'll never leave Pittsburgh, but like Nutting's literally gonna have to die in order for us to get new ownership. And
Wait, this the owner's name is Nutting? Are
Exactly.
you fucking with me?
Nutting.
No wonder they suck. Anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're feeling like shit, and you're probably gonna contribute in a minor way today. How are you otherwise, Frederick?
Well. I just I feel like shit. I took a COVID test today after work. I went to work first. How polite of me. But I don't have it. These things right here, lymph nodes in your neck, like I was trying to explain to LJ that if you're a man and you've ever had the proverbial blue balls, it feels like I have blue balls in my neck. They're so tender and sore right now, and it's a terrible feeling. It's like these lymph nodes are so sensitive, like it almost hurts to turn my fucking neck like this. Like it almost is painful. They're working hard to fight whatever I have. But
Do you take any cold medicine?
yeah, I'm on a regimen of Dayquil right now, and I'm trying to, you know, outside of that, beat it naturally. I literally slept a little under 14 hours yesterday, and I had to work in Warren, Pennsylvania, and I was at the mental asylum yesterday for work for Warren State Hospital, and I couldn't even thoroughly enjoy it because I felt like garbage. So I was really disappointed. I wanted to enjoy
Should have
the
just
drive.
admitted yourself.
What's that?
Should have just admitted yourself.
Yeah, I should have committed myself there for sure, and just been like this.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, there's some shit going around because Sarah's got something that seems very similar to what you're dealing with. She's been coughing and her throat's been hurting, and she's pulling out of it now too. So she seems like she's feeling better, but she's felt like shit for the past couple days.
Mine started literally Sunday night, and we're recording this on Tuesday. So I was fine Sunday during the day, and then I went to bed Sunday. I felt a little something in my throat. I went to bed Sunday night, and I literally, I don't know how you have a fever break before you have a fever. But like, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're just sweating through your fucking clothes, like through your fucking boxers, your shirt, you could wring it out. It's so sweaty. Like that was me Sunday night. But up to the time I went to bed, I felt fine except for like a sore throat. And then I woke up and I was just covered in moisture. Just like the pillowcase was soaked. Like it was awful. And then I went to work Monday because my boss was out. So I had 3 offices to run, and I had to go to work. And I had already told the staff in Warren that I would be there. So I did that drive, and man, it was miserable. But I took Dayquil on my way back. That was yesterday, and today I've taken 2 more shots of it today. But I'm already, like when you feel like shit, but like it's all relative because like, I mean, if I hadn't felt the way I felt yesterday, I would tell you that like there's no way I could even operate today. But because I felt so shitty yesterday, the way I feel now, I'm like I could live like this forever as long as I don't feel like how I felt yesterday. Like I could deal with this. But like if I felt how I felt yesterday, I would literally probably set myself on fire this morning and just like this is the end of it. Pour gas all over my body and just go. Like I felt so shitty.
once had a Rage Against the Machine poster, which was a picture of one of those protesting monks who set themselves on fire. And that's what I imagine you would be doing in the middle of the street in Meadville.
I wouldn't
just
be able to
because you're
sit
sick.
peacefully and burn like that, though. I mean, it takes a lot of willpower and commitment to whatever cause.
Well, you're so covered in moisture, maybe it wouldn't even hurt.
Yeah, maybe you probably wouldn't be able to set me on fire with how sweaty I was. Unbelievable. But
Well, that's cool.
I feel better, but I don't feel great.
Well, I'm glad that you're not dead.
Thank you. Thanks for doing the intro.
And
or trying to.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah, you pussed out. It's fine.
Obviously, we've got the Patreon, the one and only $1 club. You can join the Patreon for $1. Fred will send you a sticker, even if you live in Australia, and you'll get your name shouted out on the show, and we'll be your best friend forever. I mean, that's basically the stipulation of being a member of the Patreon. And you can put it on your resume too. Like when you get a new job, you can say like, "I'm a member of
Clubs.
Yes, This Is Awesome, one and only $1 club."
Part of the
this
one
is an extracurricular activity.
Yeah, it's part of your
and
club.
But you
Trying to
probably
get
don't.
into Harvard.
Yeah, if you're trying to get into Harvard, definitely
Use this as a
because,
reference. It's fine on your resume.
They probably don't want to call us as a reference. Just saying, because if I don't know,
I'd
who
be
you
like,
are,
well,
I'm
this
probably just
person
gonna
like
make shit up.
gave us $2 to listen to our
Gave us
podcast.
$2, and I mean,
they
who
must
knows? I
be
mean,
decent.
if you give us, depending on how much you give us, we could give you a great review.
LJ, I
whenever your
believe
employer
LJ is
calls
the
us.
first supporter of our show on Patreon, the longest supporter,
and
he doesn't
look where he
regret
is
it.
now.
Regret a
Look
dollar.
where he
of
is
it.
now.
Living in a mansion, 6
Yeah.
women. The list goes on and on.
He's got all these kids. He's on a podcast at 6:00 on a Tuesday
He could do whatever he
with
wants.
us.
Life is good.
Made it to the show. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so that stuff too.
I like your plugs,
I-
by the way. I like the white. That's cool looking. I've never seen those before.
Dude, you like these? These are my
No,
these are my
not you,
PlayStation
Jake. Stop
Pulse
it.
headsets. Yeah, these guys here, they're real good.
Leave it to Jake to try to steal the show. LJ has these really. I've only ever seen black plugs. Those look good.
Gonna mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
How big are your gauges?
1 inch.
1
Not
inch.
going any
man.
bigger.
Wow.
Is it when you get that big? Is it?
Mhm.
Can you go back, or do you have to have them fixed?
No, I definitely can't go back. I think after like 0 gauge, which I'm not sure how big that is in millimeters. It's not very big. You can't normally go back. So about 5/16 of an inch.
Yeah.
That's
That
you're
sounds
no
about right.
turning back.
Man, that's something. You don't see them very often anymore. I mean, that was a style back in like, the early to mid 2000s up into even like the maybe early 2010s. But nowadays, like now granted, I'm not getting out there talking to teenagers and shit, but like back in the going to shows and stuff like that, everyone had them. They either had, gauges or plugs, or they had the big fucking wild shit going on. or
Jankos.
Whatever. And what's that?
Jankos.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, the tail end of Jenkos. I
dating
mean,
myself.
Jenkos were... Yeah. But I don't feel like obviously people still have plugs and stuff, but I don't see them as like that big anymore. It seems like nowadays people have like the little mini plugs that are a little bit more... I don't know if it's a social, like they're trying to be more socially acceptable, or they don't want to fuck their ears up, or what it is, or maybe it's just not in style anymore. But that was like a cool thing. I mean, I never had the balls to do something like that, but that was something that was always kind of interesting back in the day. It's like you wouldn't necessarily judge people on them, but it was like an identifier, almost like a personality trait of like what size gauges you have, or like even the style of gauges that you had was also very individualistic, which was kind of neat. But that was like part of the show scene that I feel like maybe died with the show scene a little bit. I mean, I don't know what it's like where you're at, LJ, but back in good old Meadville, Pennsylvania, the show scene is fucking dead and buried.
Except Fred is playing with 68.
Yeah.
The legendary Josh Scoggin.
Yeah. From
It's coming back,
from the
Jake. We're
champion.
bringing it back.
In Meadville, is it coming back though?
That's
Oh,
what
no,
he
it's
shows
not.
at.
But I mean,
what are they called? Koshag? What are they called? Ko what?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Kenoshi or something like
They
that.
just opened for Coheed on a tour.
I've seen them a few times, actually.
So
which is, I mean,
we're
that's
playing
great.
with them.
It's so awesome going to, but dude, Fred, you know this. I mean, every time we do one of these shows in town, it's like all old heads. It's never like it's not a
for the
band
flood.
of teenagers. No, not us, not us. I mean like a punk, like even a One If by Land show or whatever like that. It's never
It's usually like
you know,
people like mid-20s and older. It used to be
right. So
like 15 to fucking 50.
Dude, it used to be awesome seeing just like these shitty fucking bands at the Hangout or even like, you know, the Woodcock Township building
Oh,
or the
yeah.
Sportsman's Club or whatever, where it was just like, you know, these kids don't know what the fuck they're doing. They can barely play their instruments, but they're up there just going ape shit and everyone is just having a blast. And I don't know, maybe the internet killed all that. Maybe it was video games. Video games killed the music scene. Guitar Hero killed the music scene.
I think we also grew up in a very awesome scene. I was talking to an old member of a band called Ace the Day, and he actually was my realtor. And I had to fanboy a little bit.
That's crazy.
And we got talking about when in like 2002 or something, they played in Meadville at the Sportsman's Club.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And he was like, he remembered Meadville because he's like, there were so many freaking kids at that show. Like everywhere else we played, there were maybe 50 kids, and there was just like a buttload of kids there. So I think we also grew up in a very unique, flourishing scene, and I'm thankful to have been a part of that.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah,
to that.
it's just weird. We don't, because you used to go to these shows at these little shitty buildings, and like there'd be people just pouring out into the fucking yard.
That's how our
and all
Akron show
kinds of
was. We
stuff,
just played in Ohio. It was like a house show, and there were like 70 kids there. And
Yeah.
part of me was like, "Fuck, should I be here?" Because I'm just like, not because of my age, but I'm just like, is there alcohol being served to minors? Like, am I gonna be the guy that takes the rap for this? You know what I mean? If the cops show up, and then it's like 11:30, and we've got Marshall lamps cranked to 11. And the cops aren't showing up. I'm like, this is just fucking wild. This is no man's land and great. So we just enjoyed it. But I didn't see any alcohol, to be honest. They're probably all straight edge kids. I don't know. It was a hardcore scene, but dude, that shit exists still. It's just not here like it used to be.
Dude, some of those straight edge kids from fucking back in the day were they were way crazier than any of the other dudes. Like, remember, like sometimes some of the straight edge kids would show up to shows and literally just beat the shit out of people.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I can confirm that still happens. I mean, I live in Indianapolis now, so it's a much bigger city, and I still go to a buttload of shows. And yeah, definitely at hardcore shows, there's a lot of younger people and plenty of, beat down dancing and stuff, moshing,
That's
etc.
awesome. That's so cool. Anyway, we should probably move on.
We should probably talk about games.
Games that we're playing. I guess that we're all playing Space Marine 2, so we can kind of chat about that a little bit right now. I'm not really sure how far I'm into it. Maybe five or 6 hours. I've been spreading my time around, so I'm only maybe 5 or 6 hours into the game. I'm on like the third or fourth main mission of the game. Apparently there's a point where like you stop going back to the battle barge, and I haven't reached that spot yet. So, but like the thing is starting to get weird. So, but yeah, I still really like it. If I had one more comment to say about the game, other than, obviously we don't want to talk about the story or anything, I don't want to spoil anything. But if I had like one negative to say, and this is a product of the type of game this is, meaning a game of like that era from whatever, like the early to like 2010, 2011, which was when the first game came out, is like, dude, I fucking hate these mechanics in these types of games where it's like defend the thing. I don't know how you guys feel about these types of situations in these single player games, but it's completely anathema to the way that I like to play these games. I like to kind of skirt the edges and be tactical and like cuz I'm not very good at like being a shooter. So like I like to really take my time and like chip away at the enemies and stuff. But in a game like this where it's like defend the fucking chain things or whatever, and there's all these things attacking it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just walk over there and shoot them, but at the same time you get like tidal waves of enemies crawling on top of you. And maybe it would be easier if you had real life sort of partners with you while you were doing those things, but for me, I would much rather there just be like a harder combat section or like a boss battle in that particular spot. But anytime I'm playing a game like this, it's not just particular to Space Marine. It's like all these single player third person or even first person shooter type games where like you get on a largish elevator. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be stuck on this fucking elevator defending it for, I don't know, 5 minutes, and hopefully I don't run out of ammo / health pack / whatever, because and I think that the only reason why this game got me in particular is that it's very different than a lot of games that we get nowadays in that you do not move very fast. You cannot outrun even the slowest of enemies. They catch up to you. So you have to be aggressive and you have to be very methodical about how you use your resources, how you use your grenades, how you use the combos to be able to take out the enemies and also get like the executions, and how you use your special ability to get your health back with the melee attacks. And I guess the one last thing I'll say is, like, I don't know about you guys, but I've been gravitating towards the power sword. Like, I like the chain sword a lot. Like, I think that it's really cool. It's obviously iconic for Space Marines, but I've been really loving the way that the power sword works. It's just a little bit faster, a little bit more fluid with the way that you fight. You don't have that cool ground pound that you have with the chainsaw sword, but I've been digging it. So, I mean, either one of you guys, take it away. What do you guys think about what's your experience with Space Marine 2? LJ, let's go to you because we haven't heard from you on this matter.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't played a ton of it because I've been so into Astro Bot. But I have played a little bit. I'm almost done with Astro Bot, so I'll jump, I'll go balls deep into Space Marines. But so far, I've kind of only dipped my toes. I beat that first mission, and then I actually played co-op with a buddy who has it. And we played through part of the second mission. I forget which one of you said it, but I agree 100% with what y'all said last week, where it's like, I think it was you, Jake. The controls are kind of weird, and it's like taking me some getting used to. And there's not a lot of time in the beginning of the game for you to really flesh it out, and so you're like learning on the go. And I just feel like I suck at it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I agree with you about. I think the second mission I played was there were these towers and these creatures were attacking it. And you have to shoot them off, and it's just like it stressed me the hell out. But I mean, the other thing that I ran into was my buddy and I kind of had a hell of a time getting in a game together. Like we had to disable, even though he's playing on a PS5 as well. We turned off crossplay. Because it would like not let him join, and then it kicked him out. But once we turned that off, it seemed a lot better. But I really enjoy it. I mean, like you guys said, the aesthetics are great. I can't wait to dive into it. Like I haven't even got to that power sword yet, so I don't even know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's a blast, and hope to play more soon.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a comment just to sort of throw back to the whole controls thing and you feel kind of at the beginning overwhelmed by it because you're getting overwhelmed by these enemies and you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do, and you die, and you're like kind of just mashing buttons and like accidentally for me accidentally using all my fucking health packs and like weird shit like that. But I will say that like as you go, if you stick with it, it all kind of just naturally sort of like falls into place and you get into a rhythm. I feel like some of the later missions really sort of, I don't want to say they ease you in, but they're a little bit, they, especially when you start working with the other your cohorts, the other guys that are with you, they give you a little bit more breathing room for you to learn the controls a little bit because they are also attacking the enemies, and if you go down, they can come revive you. And the AI is relatively, for those two supporting characters, is pretty intelligent, to be honest. So it's really not too bad. But that first mission where you're by yourself the whole time, it's just like, it is a trial by fire as far as tutorials are concerned. And I don't know how you feel, but I told Fred last week, and you probably heard this, is that like I thought that his armor, his Deathwatch armor in the first fucking mission is so rad. And I do think that the classic blue Ultramarines armor is cool. Like I love it, but like hopefully there's a way that you can. I know you can do it in the multiplayer portion of it, but like upgrade the armor to get it like looking different and stuff because that Deathwatch armor is dope as shit. But yeah, how about you, Fred? Are you still feeling Space Marine?
Yeah.
I know you probably haven't played a lot since you've been sick, but
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's weird. Like it's I've wanted a linear game for so long. And what I'm realizing that I'm not doing due to the linearity of Space Marines, I'm not really like taking in all the environment. And I find myself like, okay, killed that swarm, go to the next point, run there. You know what I mean? Or like go as fast as I can to it. Instead of like going, I'm following the objectives instead of like exploring those little mini sandbox areas. And I don't know if that's because of the game design, the way that it's set up, or the way that the game just feels. Like there's really not a whole lot to gain from exploring except for like grabbing a different weapon or finding an ammo box or maybe some stim kits or something. There's not a lot of collectible shit, but there are some collectibles. But they all seem to come in the way of like these data. I don't know what they call them, but it's like just audio data. But it just flushes out the world. I kind of would have liked to have seen maybe more, have the game give us more of a reason to explore a little bit, because like if you go in the direction of the waypoint, you're gonna get to the next point. You're gonna get your autosave. But like really, anytime I've explored anywhere else, it hasn't really gotten me anything. So like I think I'm missing out on a lot of like the environments and stuff. So I'm trying to make a point to go right when the game says to go left and just look around a little bit more, because I love the artwork and I love the environments, and it really is kind of breathtaking for a studio like them to put it together and have such a great delivery artistically and really capture like that grimdark environment that Warhammer Space Marines falls in. And one other thing, I'm not super far in either. I've done the chain mission you're talking about, where they're trying to like whatever, and then the drawbridge comes down or something. I think that's part of that one, but maybe it's the elevator or something. The chains on the elevator. I don't know what part that was, but I'm back. I think I'm back in the hub. I don't have a lot of time into it, but I understand they're trying to keep the game canon with that universe because they have to. They probably have to contractually through Games Workshop because they have the license for it. But I really hope to God that we get some other kind of enemy type, because I'm already bored of the enemies. So I hope they start introducing more enemy types. Like you have the fast swarmy things, you have the things that shoot at you, then you have like the predator looking things. And that's really, and the gargoyles that fly. And like there's as far as I can tell, there's only roughly 4 different kinds of enemies in this game. And that's
they do add more enemy types as you go on. Like in the next mission that you go to, there's like a special enemy type that you fight that becomes, there's a couple of them.
That the one that disappears?
There's that guy, and
Is
then
that a boss?
there's
Is it considered like a boss, or do you think they come back?
well, they do. I'm telling you right now, they do come back.
They're fucking.
So
hard.
it's like one of those things where in a lot of these types of games, where the first time you fight them, they're like a mini boss, but then they become like a semi-regular enemy
Yeah.
after that. So it's kind of one of those scenarios. Same with there's these other like flying like telepathic things that
Yeah.
like happen, and so there's some stuff like that, and there's obviously there's more enemies that, without getting into spoilers, are a different xenotype, let's say.
That's cool.
Which is kind of cool, or race. But yeah, so I think we'll have to kind of put a pin in Space Marines 2 until maybe we've all beaten it, and then we can kind of reflect on it. The one thing I will say that I think is awesome about this game is I don't remember the game mode, but there's that co-op mode that are PvE missions, and they are actually they take place in parallel with the campaign.
Yeah.
So like in the main campaign, you'll get to a spot where Titus will tell like this other squad, like, you guys go do this distraction while we get in and try and rescue this guy or whatever. And when those guys go off to do that distraction, that's actually a mission in the multiplayer mode that you can actually then go do with your friends or whatever. And it helps kind of flesh out the story a little bit while giving you some extra content to play with your buddies in the multiplayer mode, which is a lot more customization and all this other kind of stuff. So I think that that's a really, really freaking neat feature of this game, and I love that it's fully featured. The game is done. Like, it's not like one of these live service games where you get in there, there's nothing in it, and it's like, oh well, we're gonna add stuff later and add stuff later and add stuff later. And yeah, I think they've come out and said like, yeah, we're gonna add some missions to this mode, but the game is complete as is, and that's something that we really don't see a lot of anymore. So keep an eye out for some more Space Marines 2 talk. But I will say, I still I'll walk away from the game a bit, and I'm just like, like, I don't know if I want to jump back in. And then I'll jump back in, and as soon as I'm in, just like the imagery and the fucking weight of everything, and you just beating the shit out of these bad guys, like, there's something magical about this particular just amalgamation of just theme and story and character and like heft and like battle type, or whatever you want to call it, is like the way that you combat the enemies, like the melee plus the guns plus the futuristic plasma shit. Like, it's
weird too.
It's pretty,
the story with like the machine gods and then the steampunkiness of
yeah,
some of it, and like
it's,
you know,
it makes me want to play
tanks.
Warhammer. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm never gonna get into it because I don't want to mortgage my fucking house to do it. But I think that it's like, I love the idea of maybe picking up one of these Warhammer books or something and just getting a little bit more into the lore. It's just so overwhelming to think
Dude,
about.
just
There's
get a
so
Warhammer
much
starter
of it.
kit for $100 some and fuck with it. It's fun.
And just fucking look at it.
No,
yeah,
build the shit, paint it up. I'll get one. We'll play
and
each
look
other.
at it.
We'll play each other. We'll learn it. Dude, I got Spearhead, which is a really cool new Games Workshop thing they're doing. I got the latest Spearhead thing. Skaven.
So,
it's
but
a
anyway,
lot of fun, that shit.
Moving on, the next thing that I'd like to talk about is Astrobot, because we've all played Astrobot now too. I did jump in and play the first. I've completed the first, what do you want to call it, universe or whatever, star system, whatever the fuck you want to say. And I gotta say, man, this game is rad. It is so good. And what happened was, I think it was Friday night, Sarah was out. I think she was hanging out with your brother Fred, and I finished a mission in Space Marine, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So I was like, I'm just gonna play Astrobot. I haven't started it yet. I was gonna wait till after Space Marine, but fuck it, I want to play something I don't have to think about. And I jumped into this game, and man, it is so good. Everything about it. I mean, I love the Astrobots. They're cute as hell. I love all of the different little bots that you find, and all of the characters from the PlayStation universe that you find. The worlds are kind of unique. The music is awesome. I love how a lot of these missions have like a special power up that you have that helps you like complete the mission. Like one of the first ones you get, I don't know if Fred you got this or not, but one of the first ones you get is like a pair of like hands that are like frog heads, and they're like little boxing
I haven't
gloves
gotten that yet.
that you can use to like punch things. And there's like one that like turns you into like a blimp where you can kind of like float and stuff. And uh, it's awesome. It is so much fun. And I almost don't even want to talk about it too much because I think that just experiencing it and like being surprised by it is part of the joy of this game. And because there's so many like little things that happen whenever you're playing it, you're like, oh, that is so fucking cool. And it just the whole time I was playing it, I was like, man, this is just making me happy. It's so nice to play a game that just makes me happy. It's not like overtly serious or like I'm not, ready to crush my controller when I'm playing it. And just everything that's on the screen and going in my ears and what I'm feeling in my hands is just a thrill. And yeah, like I said, the music is awesome. I was at the racetrack yesterday, or not yesterday, Sunday, and I'm on my bike and I'm fucking doing like 100 miles an hour. And for some reason, the only thing I can think of is that song from the fucking Crash Planet where the PS5 is, and it's got that like Western themed song. And like I'm just like whistling it the whole time I'm riding around the racetrack at like 100 miles an hour. I was like, for whatever reason, it would not leave my brain, and I still think about it all the time. It's one of these games, and we got a news point later on that apparently it's doing pretty well, and I'm really glad to see that because I would love to see this be the future of Sony's like family friendly platformer Nintendo-esque style thing. Like I think that we don't need this all the time. They don't need to do like a Horizon thing where we're gonna have like a TV show and 5 fucking games a year and like a massively multiplayer game, like yada yada yada. But just like every so often, give us one of these games with new levels, new bots to find, new obscure characters. Maybe if you want to add some features where it's like, oh, you get the character and now maybe LJ, maybe you can comment on this. Is there a way for you to? I know there's like a menu where it shows the characters that you found, but can you go to the characters and it gives you like a bio of everything like what they're from and like their importance to PlayStation? Because if they don't have that, that would be something that would be cool for them to add in.
I know there's a menu, yeah, where you can like see all the bots, but I don't know if it has information about them.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of because I think like for the new PlayStation fan or like your kids who are young enough that they maybe didn't play a lot of these old games or know really anything about them, like if they like got that character and maybe there was some little thing that just celebrated it in a way that it would introduce the youth or even the new PlayStation gamer to those particular characters, because it's really neat. And I love, like, I haven't done much of this yet. I've just been hoarding all of my coins in case I need them for like those little birds or whatever. But like you can like use the machine to get like items for them, and it's all very in keeping with the character and their game and everything, and you can interact with them and stuff in that little world, which is pretty cool. You're obviously, Fred, I think still has only played a couple levels of it, so you're obviously the resident expert here on the game. I know you've been playing it a lot with your family. What is your like kind of takeaway with it?
Yeah, I'm literally one level away from the platinum. This is one of my favorite games ever made. I know that's like a lot of hype, but I just think it has everything. Fuck Mario, okay? You Nintendo people. No, I'm just kidding. That's a little hyperbole, but I love Mario. But it just felt like that. Like when I was a kid and playing Mario, and just the like magic of it and the wanting to like find every little thing on a level or in the universe. It's all there, and it's so cute, and like the game stands up on its own. It doesn't need the Sony IPs that it brings in. It doesn't need those, but they're fucking icing on the cake. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not relying on those. you commented earlier, said something about like, I don't want to throw my controller. Just wait. There's some levels where it's unbelievable. Yeah, literally we play it every day. Like my whole family, from my 4-year-old to my wife to me, like someone is always playing that game, and I like that about it because it's like, as a almost 40-year-old man, like I can enjoy it, but my 4-year-old can enjoy it, and I don't have enough good things to say about it. I mean, in my mind, I'm starting to think of my game of the year. And for me, so far, it's between that and Helldivers. And I think for me, it's going to be hard to beat Helldivers just because I have a lot of good memories from that with the boys from earlier this year. I played a shit ton of that. But this game is amazing. And yeah, everyone should buy it. And I agree with you that I think the less you look into it, the better. But, I will say, like, yeah, I really love, as the game went on, like the IP stuff that they brought into it. And it's just so unique in a lot of ways, literally from start to finish. And that's kind of a loaded sentence, and you'll understand why. But yeah, it's a freaking awesome game.
That's a lot. I like how you are prepared to essentially choose your friends over your family in the game of the year conversation. I don't know what that says about you, but it's interesting. Fred, chime in.
I don't have a whole lot left to say about this. I'm 2 levels in, and everything I said about it last episode still stands. I haven't played it since. I just to jump on the backs of everything both of you have said. I will say that there's something very, very clean about the presentation of this game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the art style, the color choices, there's something so polished and shiny and fresh about these worlds. They don't feel cluttered at all. Like the way the level design and the way it begs for more. Jake, you and I have talked about artwork for video games, specifically Resistance 3, I think, a long time ago. They had like that alternative cover with like the orange background or something. And like there's just
orange and tan.
Yeah, there's just something about the way that looks that you can't fucking keep your grubby hands off of it. Like you keep grabbing it and looking at it and flipping the thing over and looking at it and fucking with it and putting it away, and then you pick it back up. You're like, man, it just feels good. It looks right. Astrobot is that for me. I'm playing Space Marines. I haven't gone back to Astrobot because I want to beat one at a time, but let's not forget that I still have the casting of Frank Stone sitting there. So I have 3 new games, and this damn sickness has kind of kept me from playing this past weekend. But there's just something so... And I listen to different video game podcasts and stuff, and I don't think anybody has specifically brought up the level design. They bring up the cuteness and how creative it is, but there's a lot of genius behind the way these levels are designed, that they feel open, but they also feel really linear at the same time. It's really an interesting fine line to walk. That you feel like, well, I can go anywhere within this little world. If I can get there, I can get there. But like at the same time, they don't feel like, oh, I'm gonna fucking get lost. I'm not gonna get lost here. I clearly know what my options are. But it's a matter of figuring out how to get to some of these locations, because you'll see like a little Astrobot squirming around somewhere. You're like, how do I do that? And they present a lot of they really balance your characters' I guess skill sets within the environments in such a way that they play off one another so well in this game. And then the visual presentation is just fantastic. It's one of the cleanest, refreshing games to play. It doesn't feel dirty. It doesn't feel mucky. Everything about it is just so polished. From the haptics of running and hearing the footprints and feeling the footprints come out of your controller, your footsteps, to like just little things that you, as you start playing the game, you start taking for granted. And when it all comes together flawlessly, how they've implemented this, it really is genius at work. It shows the love and care that Team Asobi have put into this game. And, you know, and I think it also shows how much restraint they were able to exercise, because they could have really tried to fucking do so much more with this. And, you know, like, I think a lot of studios would be tempted to do so much more. Like, oh, let's give, like, dialogue options. Let's do choose your own whatever. You know, let's do levels that you have to replay multiple times to get everything. Let's do, you know what I mean? But, like, it seems like they really knew what they were going for, and they weren't like hearkened by temptation to, like, get outside of their goals. And I think this game shows a lot of restraint. I don't know. Just from what and it's not just this Astrobot. It's literally every Astrobot game or version of Astrobot that I've had the pleasure of playing, whether it be VR or whether it be at the PS5 that came out. We got that free Astrobot thing. They're all unbelievably great. And I think that the team just should be recognized for their skill set and their efforts, and honestly the amount of restraint that they're able to practice, because it would be so easy to fuck this beautiful thing up, and they've not done that yet. So I think that they know what they have a vision, and they're executing on it, and they've done so time and time and time again. And they even came out and said that they weren't even thinking about VR when they made this game. I was disappointed, because this game in VR is absolutely any of the Astrobot stuff in VR, I guess I should say, because this game isn't in VR, but it's absolutely a joy to exist in these worlds, in a VR world. Like, it's just everything about this game that all these listeners or whoever, all these gamers are playing and enjoying. When you're in there in VR, it's just exacerbated and exponentially more enjoyable, because you're in those fucking worlds. So the fact that they knew that they weren't going to be going that route, probably because Sony didn't want them to or whatever, dude, that it just makes me think that, like, I don't even know if it would be easy to patch that in down the road. But if this game does really fucking good, I wouldn't be surprised if Sony or somebody, if it's like, you know, a 6-month project to implement VR for this, I would like to see that happen. Man, I don't know that it would sell VR 2 units though, headsets, but there's something really special about this series, and it's been under delivered by Sony. They haven't really talked a whole lot about it. And it's the people who know about it, like on this podcast and other podcasts, that are just championing how great this game is. I think is how it's going to catch it. You know, the wings are going to catch the air and they're going to float around. But there's just something about this game that's so clean, and I don't know how else to word that. But I think you guys know what I mean. Like, it's just crisp, it's clean, it just feels good. It's like putting a stick of like winter fresh gum in your mouth. You know, and she's like, wow, this is great. You know, the first 5 seconds of that is just this game the whole time you play it. But anyways, that's my opinion of it so far. It may change the more I play it, but I am thrilled to jump into it. I'm going to beat Space Marines first.
That's totally fair. Well, speaking of VR, the last thing that I have to contribute to the games that we're playing section is that I am playing Half-Life Alyx.
Did you get the adapter?
I got the adapter for the PSVR 2 to play on PC. Now, I will say, they're like, when you look this thing up online, it's like 50-50 reviews. Some people are like, this is the worst thing that's ever been invented, and some people are like, it's totally fine. I'm in the camp of it's totally fine if you know how to use a computer. So if you are not one of these people that understands the idea of like using a PC to play games and like Steam and stuff like that and like connecting your shit to the PC through Bluetooth and everything. I can understand why this might be a daunting thing for you. And it actually took me a little bit to get it took me about an hour to get it all kind of set up and ready to go. But once I did and I got it all going, um, dude, it works great. It looks awesome. And I booted up Half-Life Alyx. Now I will say that it's mapping the VR2 the Sense controllers to the Steam VR controller kind of setup. So it's not calling out like PSVR buttons or whenever you're playing the game. So like there is a little bit of that where you just kind of have to know what you're doing, which is fine. Now maybe there's something that I'm missing. I don't know. And the actual like menu system is kind of interesting, although it's a little bit, I don't want to say convoluted, but like when you start up your PlayStation, it only does one thing, right? You start it up, it brings up a menu. It's like you start a fucking game or you start Netflix. Like that's all it does. I guess you can go on the store and buy some shit if you want. Whereas this, it's like a whole PC plus Steam plus this VR shit plus the PlayStation VR shit plus the game that you're playing, and it all kind of interconnects together, and you have to do that dance to make it all work. And it's not that complicated, but it's like I have to boot up Steam, start the PSVR app, then start the Steam VR app. Then once I'm within Steam VR, which is like the OS for VR within Steam. So it actually boots you up into this VR world where you're like in a living room and you have like a big board on the wall and you can select which game you want to play, or you can go over to another wall and it's like all this online stuff, or it's like a house. Like I could literally walk out the door and like look at the scenery and shit, or like come back. Like it's much more sort of cheeky in the way that it's done. And but then you just literally like select Half-Life Alyx and it just boots right into it, and then you're like, okay, now I'm just in the game. And yeah, and I have my headphones on and I'm playing the VR, and dude, it's the quality of this game pretty fucking high. We've gushed ad nauseum about the benefits of playing something like Resident Evil Village or even Resident Evil 4 with the VR2, or something like Gran Turismo, but I'm just going to use, let's say, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8 as an example, because this is like my best comparison, because they're both kind of shootery, sort of horror adjacent sort of games. Obviously, Resident Evil leans more on the horror side. Half-Life is more of like a thriller with like some horror elements to it. But dude, the quality of everything, the voice acting, the way all the gunplay works, it's like top tier. It's top tier shit. And it's the only VR like shootery kind of game that I've played where I'm like, this is in the same league as Resident Evil. I haven't even played like all the other VR shootery kind of games that I've played are like, these are fun, these are good, but they're not in the same ballpark as Resident Evil. Like Resident Evil is like, this is a premium S tier kind of experience where they spent gajillions of dollars developing this to make it feel amazing. And everything below that is like, it's like an arcade game, if that makes any sense. In terms of the way that it feels. Now, I will say that like the controls are a little bit less involved. Like in Resident Evil Village, you have to do everything, to like holding the clip to the magazine, to putting it in the gun, to having the you have the separate buttons for like holding things versus firing. Like they use I guess that would be the R1, L1 and R2, L2 buttons are separate. Where in Half-Life, those two buttons kind of do the same thing on both controllers. So I could pull the trigger to hold something, as well as the I guess you would call it like the palm trigger, the L1, R1 buttons, whatever you want to call them on the Sense controllers. Um, but it's very similar. It's like I got to eject the mag. I got to grab a new mag from over my shoulder. I got to pop it into place. I've got to recock the gun. In addition to that, though, one of the cool things about it is you got these, and this is very in keeping with Half-Life 2 if you've played it, you get these gravity gloves. And if there's items laying around, I can just hold my hand out and it'll highlight them on the map. And I can tether to it and yank it and it'll fly towards me and I can catch it and put it in my backpack or catch it and, like, if it's a magazine, put it in my gun or whatever. That's a very neat little feature. And it's very Half-Life. Like if you've played Half-Life 2 and you're walking through City 17 and you've got those big, like, bug sentinel things that are walking around, it feels very big when you play Half-Life 2, like in 2004. It's been forever, 20 years. But in this game, you're actually in the world and they're like, you're watching them walk over you, kind of like in Horizon, Call of the Mountain. It's scary, kind of like a Resident Evil game where your ammo is very limited. There's a lot of dark alleys and stuff that you have to, like, find the way to turn the lights on and stuff. I'm only about maybe 2 hours into it. I haven't really played it a whole lot. I've only played it like basically yesterday I played it. And I played it maybe for like a half hour on Sunday after I got everything set up. But it's really cool. Like, will I go and download a bunch of VR games on Steam and play my PSVR with it or whatever? I don't know. Like, I'll have to look up and see, like, what are good VR games on Steam. But from what I understand, like, you're restricted to using this thing within Steam VR. So I don't know. Maybe modders have made it so that you can use it outside of that. Like, we were joking, obviously, about, like, watching porn in VR and, like, all this kind of shit. And, like, I don't know if that's something you can do with the PSVR 2. I haven't experimented with it. But there are plenty of games. Like, when I looked up VR, like, looked for free VR games, like, one of the categories in Steam was, like, VR games with nudity, which is like the fact that that's a category is very interesting to me. Like, all these dating sim type anime games and shit, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm half tempted to try one of these games just because I'm curious from a purely educational perspective, but, like, I don't. It's just it skeeves me out. I don't know if I could be willing to do something like that. But and I'm sure, like, if my wife walked in and there's a fucking anime porn game going on, and I'm, like, wearing my VR headset, she's gonna probably divorce me. But, like,
you would never know if she saw you.
That's true. And I believe, obviously I don't know because I have the headset on, but I believe that, like, the computer monitor actually mirrors what's going on in the headset, kind of like the VR2 does. So that's kind of neat. If I did want to put my PC in my living room and do this, I would be able to kind of have that experience. Cost wise with that thing, I will say that, like, that $60, which is already a little bit steep for this thing, it inflates pretty quick because you have to buy a Bluetooth dongle if your PC doesn't have one. And a lot of people recommend that you buy one that's dedicated because of the quality of the connection that you get with the controllers. And then you also have to have a DisplayPort 1.4 cable, which I did not have one. So I had to buy that. Now, the Bluetooth dongle was cheap. It was like $12 for a decent one. And then the cable was like $10 or $12. But, you know, add that on to the $60 and now I'm at like $85 to hook this thing up to my PlayStation or my computer, and then I pay $60 for Half-Life Alyx, which I'm more than happy to pay for Half-Life Alyx because that franchise is top tier to me. But, you know, when you think about, am I going to play anything else with this? I don't know. So I would say for the average PSVR person, if you don't have a PC that you know is able to run it, if you don't know that you're going to play games on your PC, if you're not comfortable with just throwing $80 at something for an experiment, Like, I don't know that I can recommend this to people, but I will say that once you get it all set up, the experience, at least for me so far, seems pretty much the same as you get on PlayStation 5 without some of the haptics and stuff that you have when you're playing a PlayStation 5, like a PlayStation game. But to be honest with you, I didn't even notice it because the game wasn't really designed with that in mind. So, like, if you're playing Beat Saber on your PlayStation 5, it's not you. I mean, maybe it is and I just don't notice it, but like, I'm not really thinking about the haptics and everything. So, like, when I'm playing this game, I'm not really thinking about it either. But it probably helps that I'm not like doing a one-to-one comparison either. I'm not like hooking it up to my PlayStation, playing fucking whatever, and then jumping on my PC right away and playing it and be like, oh, this feels dead because I don't have the haptics. But and like, yeah, I don't know if it does the foveated rendering or not, but visually everything seems good. So I don't know. I don't have anything to complain about so far. Other than maybe the fact that VR is a much more active experience. So like, you gotta stand the whole time if you want to play it that way, and like Half-Life Alyx especially, like there are some sections where there's no crouch button. Like I literally got to get on the fucking floor to crawl under like into this pipe and shit, which is I guess interesting. But it would be nice if there was a way for me to just be like artificially like drop my point of view down so that I didn't have to like, because like when I'm doing this, I want to stand because I want to get that experience where I'm moving around and I'm not restricted by a chair or whatever. But I don't necessarily want to like get up and down and all around and all of this stuff. Like the extent of that might be Beat Saber for me. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any comments on my experience, but that's where I'm at with it, and I'm definitely gonna play this game to the end because, like I've said multiple times on this podcast, Half-Life 2 is arguably like top 5 game of all time for me. So to have another view, like another experience within that universe for the first time in 20 years is awesome. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it, though.
I guess I'll just bookend it with, for anyone just now tuning into the podcast that doesn't know, we've been talking about hoping that Half-Life Alyx was going to come to PSVR 2, and it hasn't. So Sony came out with this adapter that connects to the PC. So now Jake can finally fucking play the game on Steam. And so that's what that was all about. So it is PlayStation related because it is a PlayStation VR adapter, and you are using the VR2 headset and the Move controllers, or whatever you want to call them.
Right, and I know LJ, you have a PSVR 2, right? I don't. Do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
You
I'm
like
happy
it
that,
a lot?
Yeah, I do. I'm just like you guys, where it's like most of the times I just want to sit there and hold a controller and like get up and sweat and shit. But yeah, I'm happy that you finally get to play it. I would be down with playing. I mean, the barrier to entry with the money might be an issue, but yeah, that's awesome. Glad to hear.
Yeah, it's fortunate. Like I wouldn't have even considered it if I didn't already have a PC capable of running this stuff.
Right.
Like the fact that I already have a piece, like ostensibly a gaming PC. I don't really do any gaming on it, but I have one that's capable of running almost any game. So the fact that that was not a barrier of entry to me. If someone was like, they just have kind of a shitty PC and they would also have to buy a video card on top of all of the other accoutrements that they need to make this work. It's like, okay, now you're spending $400 on a video card plus almost $100 on all the VR accessories. It's like, no, just go buy a Meta Quest or something like that. And I don't even know if the Meta Quest can play Half-Life Alyx, but because that's one of those, I think that's one of those games that is like a little bit on the higher end in terms of like the fidelity. And I know the Quest has some issues there, but I will say that so far happy with my experience.
Cool.
And glad with all that. So we're gonna jump into some news. I'm gonna be honest, we should probably just kind of power through these because we've already been going for an hour, and I know that like I've got work tomorrow, and LJ's got a family to get back to, Fred's dying, so I think we're just gonna kind of jet through these. And probably what I'm going to do is I'll read off some of these and then just kind of ask for some quick feedback on them. We'll just do this kind of like a lightning round.
Yeah.
If we have anything we want to elaborate on, feel free. But I don't want to linger too long just because of the situation. So, first news point. It looks like the PlayStation 6 is in development, and it looks like AMD has won the contract yet again for the CPU slash GPU situation on the console. And there's some articles out there about this. I was reading this on Push Square. They were commenting on some. I don't actually even remember where they got the information from, but if it's a rumor or if it's something that they dug up from an actual source. But it looks like that the main reason for this is because of backwards compatibility, which makes sense if you know anything about PCs or anything like that. If you have a piece of software that runs on a specific CPU, it's very difficult to make that software run on a different CPU entirely if it's not intended to work on that CPU. This is a big reason why Mac and PC can't play the same games. I mean, there was a period where Mac was using Intel CPUs and it was a little bit easier, but generally Mac uses their own kind of brand. They were using PowerPC and now they're using their own Apple CPU, and that's why you can't play many PC games on Mac. It's the same thing here. Intel also lost. Like the Intel was up for bidding for it, but they lost because of price and apparently they were going to be more expensive than AMD, which is not that surprising if you know anything about PCs. But also the backwards compatibility thing, they're really targeting. They want to make sure that everything from PS4 to PS5 is going to move up into the next console generation. And I, for one, appreciate that because I'm sure we're going to be paying $1 gazillion for this console, and I want to know that I can play everything I fucking have on it, at least back to a certain point. What do you guys say?
I think that
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I think the interesting thing is it looks like the crux of this news article was focused more on the fact that Intel lost the bid, and that's how they found out that AMD got it. You know, and they were in talks back to 2022 about this, and I think that's good. You know, any way that Sony can cut a corner and still give us quality product and still give us backwards compatibility, if they're not going to pay the higher cost for Intel, and AMD is going to still do the work and do the job, then I'm going to invest some money in AMD then. I'm just kidding.
Well, Intel's actually apparently doing pretty bad right now. They had a bunch of CPU issues, and their stock is way down. So they might actually be a good get. You might be able to get them while they're down, and then because they're going to come back. You know they are. Intel, yeah. So anyway, LJ, do you have any comments?
Nope. Agreed.
Okay. Moving on. Just quickly, we're going to run through some additions to the PS Plus game catalog for the month of September. This is not the extra games that we talked about already last week or the week before that. This is stuff that's being added to Premium and Extra. So we're getting the Plucky Squire on PS5 with this game. Now, LJ, being a fan of the platformer Astro Bot, this game also looks like a very interesting and fun platformer. It's like a mix between 2D and 3D. It might be something that you could enjoy with your family as well.
Yeah, I remember when this was in the showcase or whatever, and it stuck out. So, yeah, I'm glad it's coming out. Definitely going to add it to my wish list. Keep an eye on it.
For sure. Now, we also got, I'm just going to run through these here. Under the Waves, Night in the Woods, Chernobylite, Wildcard Football, Space Engineers, Road 96, Ben 10, Far Cry 5, which I highly recommend. And that is for the Extra and Premium game catalog. And now the Premium PSVR, or this, I don't know why this says PSVR 2. Oh, PSVR, there are PSVR 2 games here, and classics. So we're getting Pistol Whip, which is a VR game that a lot of people recommend. I've never played it, but apparently it's like a rhythm style, like shooter kind of game, almost like Super Hot or something, but it's like rhythm based where you're like running through a level, shooting things. And I'm very interested in maybe checking that out. So I might give that a try. Also, Secret Agent Clank, which is an old game, Sky Gunner, Mr. Mosquito, also both classic games. LJ, I saw you nodding your head on Pistol Whip. Do you have interest in this, or have you played it?
I think I played it on the Quest a couple years ago. Not very long, but it was fun. The like 30 minutes I played.
Right. Fred, what about you? Do you have any interest in any of these games at all?
Well, I mean, any VR2 game would be fun to put in the catalog. You know, any reason I can find to put that headset back on and do something different with it, I'm gonna try to do that. So.
Now the only thing is that it is according to the list, and I can't remember if I got this off of VGC or Push Square, but they have it listed at under the premium selection. So you might have to have premium to get this. I know you and I both have extra, I believe. LJ, I don't know where you sit in the echelon of PS Plus tiers, but I know I've been getting a lot of bang for my buck out of the extra, but it seems like, dude, they're starting to get some games on premium that are catching my eye. Not enough for me to pay the extra whatever fucking $40 is for it, but it's definitely becoming a little bit more enticing than it was.
Yeah, very good.
Totally.
So moving on. I don't know if you guys remember a game back in the day called Skate. We've talked about this a long time ago on the podcast at this point, but they're remaking it, or not remaking it, but they're, I guess, reimagining it. And it's going to be like this free-to-play, open-world kind of skate game. I really enjoyed the first Skate game on Xbox 360. I thought it was a lot of fun. I loved that it was a touch of realism in a world of Tony Hawk Pro Skaters when it come to skating, like skateboarding games. And I can't remember. I had knee surgery and hernia surgery in the same year when I was 20. I think it was in college. I was 20 years old, and my brother had a 360, and he let me just like play it while I was recovering from both of these things. And I think one of the games that I played during this time was the original Skate, and I really enjoyed it. Now, will I dive back into another skateboarding game? Probably not, but if it's free to play, I'm definitely willing to try it. And the new Skate is launching into early access next year. I don't think we know exactly when yet, but and I probably won't play early access. I don't want to pay for it. I'll just wait till it comes out. Like, I'm not really hankering for it, but I will say that I do think that the world needs another one of these games. How about you guys? Have either of you played Skate, and do you have any excitement for this new game at all? Fred, let's go to you.
I loved Skate. Skate was great. It was also challenging in a different kind of way that was not a Tony Hawk way. I was into it. I skateboarded a little bit back in my younger days. So yeah, I mean, why not? Like, there's something about the culture of skateboarding that always evolves. And I know for me and my group of friends, it used to be, you know, DIY punk rock skateboards, and then like underground, a lot of like interesting underground fucking skate videos of people just doing dumb shit and like doing cool shit at the same time. And like, just like you'd see someone rock a style that you never would have seen anywhere else. Like, I can't even put words to it. Just something stupid, something as simple as like maybe somebody had like a button-up shirt, but like the threading on the top button would be like yellow. And it was like, you know, that motherfucker got out a needle and whatever and just threaded his button yellow at the top just to be different. And you're like, wow, I never would have fucking thought of that. So there's always like cool skate culture where like people are just doing whatever the fuck they want to do, bucking the rules and just having a blast and making friends. So skateboarding is always awesome to me. And I love the fact that the culture in the sport hasn't really died. I mean, it had its heyday when, you know, the X Games and shit were like got huge. But like even prior to that, it was a thing. And even now, it's still just kind of bubbling in the undertow. And it's happening everywhere, you know. And there's a lot of inner city skating going on, which is awesome. You know, so it's for a long time I feel like skateboarding got kind of like taken over by suburbia, but it seems like now there's a huge like big city, inner city movement of skateboarding going on, at least on YouTube. I watch skate videos on there every once in a while, and it's fucking rad. I just love that the sport just continuously evolves, and people find solace in it, and it's a safe haven for a lot of people. And I love the fact that they're making video games out of it. And I think Skate's cool because it's more realistic. It's not like some slapsticky Tony Hawk bullshit. It's like it's like actually cool.
Heck yeah. LJ, you have any comments?
Well, I was more of a Tony Hawk guy, so I didn't play too much Skate. But like you, Jake, I would play it if it was like free. A side note: I read this past week that supposedly Tony Hawk's in talks with Activision to do something. I don't know if it's like an anniversary re-release or like a new game, but no, totally. I get the realist side of it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really great. And yeah, Fred, like you, I remember even in the early days of the internet, I used to, with my 56K or whatever modem, wait like 7 hours to download like a 3-minute Skate video off of some pirate website so that I could watch, I don't know, some kid I've never fucking heard of bomb a set of 30 stairs or something.
Yeah, recorded on like a VHS handheld.
Yeah, or like those really old school fisheye cameras, which were freaking rad. But yeah, I'm all about, dude, I watch skate videos still to this day all the time. And I love skateboarding. It's just so fucking dangerous that like, and this is coming from someone who like rides motorcycles and shit, but like, I just can't. I can't anymore. Anyway, moving on. So, couple news points here. We're just going to blast through real quick. The console developer of Minecraft, so not Mojang, but the developer that ported them to console, the game to console, is creating a new survival sandbox game called REFORJ, spelled really fucking stupid, REFORJ, and it is going to use their own newly developed engine that supposedly will allow them to optimize this type of game for modern hardware, whether it be ray tracing. Because one of the things about Minecraft is that, as stupid as it looks, I say stupid lovingly, like I love it, but like as shitty and blocky as it looks, it's very, very hard on your CPU because of all of the different blocks and like how they're being, like, especially the more people get in the server, the more they fuck up the world. And then you add ray tracing in on top of that. It's really, really difficult to make it run awesome on a console. So apparently these guys are going to make a new engine that allows them to optimize that a little bit for this new ReForge game, which looks like sort of like a cousin to Minecraft. I don't know if you guys have played Minecraft at all. I am an admirer of Minecraft. I've played it a little bit. I've even built some weird shit in Minecraft, but I don't have the attention span to learn these games in and out like some of these guys do that make these like amazing like redstone circuits. Like people have made fully functional fucking Game Boys within Minecraft using like redstone circuits and shit, and like these crazy huge worlds and stuff. Like LJ, I know you have kids. Like, does your son like Minecraft at all, or have you been like steering him clear of that?
No, they all play Minecraft. More so the two younger ones who are like 4 and 7. I play with them a little bit. It's not really my cup of tea, but yeah. I mean, I looked up this ReForge. It looks a lot better. Like it looks more enticing to me personally. Not trying to shit on people like Minecraft, but yeah, it's crazy how popular Minecraft is.
Yeah, definitely. Fred, do you have any comments on Minecraft?
No, I've never
heard
played
you say
it.
one thing about it.
Never played it my entire life.
Okay, moving on then. This comment I thought was kind of funny, so I just tossed it in here. Final Fantasy 16 is launching on PC this week for $50, which is already a screaming deal. And I know, Fred, you were maybe a little bit less stoked on Final Fantasy 16 than I was. But I think the game is great, and I'm really excited for the PC players to get to play it. But I thought it was funny that there was a comment, Yoshi-P, who is the director of the game, came out asking people not to make mods that were obscene or offensive, which is,
that is
absolutely hilarious to me. Because you know the first thing that people are going to do is they're going to take the clothes off of all these fucking women. So I think that's really funny. Maybe he's trying to protect his honor or whatever. But yeah, pretty cool. LJ, did you play Final Fantasy 16? Do you have any interest in it at all?
100% have interest. It's on the wish list, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
Cool. I think if did you play Final Fantasy VII Remake or anything like that?
Most of it. I haven't finished it.
Did you enjoy it though? Did you enjoy your experience with it?
Very
I,
much so.
I think you will enjoy 16. It's a little bit more like dark fantasy, a little bit more medieval, but gameplay wise, it's still very action heavy, maybe even a little more so than Final Fantasy 16 or 5 or sorry, 7 Remake. But I really enjoyed it. The boss battles are absolutely insane spectacles that I've like something I've never seen before. So and I know like Fred played it. So what do you think, Fred? Do you think they should make do they think they should make a mod where all the boobies come out?
Sex salesman.
Or do you think that they should restrain?
He's leading the charge, actually, I think.
Yeah, I already started working on it. Got Affinity Photo up. I've just been doctoring some skins.
As long as you also...
what the fuck, man? I mean, like, should
Dude,
they do
it's
this?
gonna
No.
happen.
Should they? No. But, I mean, like...
Dude, they just think it's... I honestly think that it's... Some of it is pervy, but I think some of it is just people think it's fucking hilarious.
Well, I think it is.
They think it is so fucking funny to make these mods where it's like you're playing this serious game and like this dude's dong is hanging out. Like I don't know. I love the mod scene on PC. I'm never going to do all the things that you need to do to mod games and make sure they don't break and all this crazy shit. But like every so often I'll go into a deep dive on like cyberpunk mods or like Skyrim mods on YouTube, just like watching the shit that people have made. Like one of the funniest ones, Skyrim is one of these games that is just notorious for mods. Like the modding scene for that is probably the biggest of any game ever made. And like I remember they made this mod where it was like all of the dragons were just giant iterations of Macho Man Randy Savage, and he would just like scream like oh yeah, like as he was like, you know, snapping to his lip, like all this crazy shit while he's flying around this map shooting dragon out of his like fire out of his mouth at you. And so like I think that obviously Japanese culture is a little bit more buttoned up, a little bit more, let's say, honorable than maybe the rest of the world, and maybe Yoshi-P doesn't want to see that kind of debauchery happen to his baby. But like, you release the beast, you release this bad boy on PC, it's gonna happen. I mean, there's no avoiding it.
And don't say this. Like, you just made it worse.
Yeah, because people are gonna be making these mods and then just like tweeting him about them.
Right.
So
it's
yeah.
I don't know, man. I just think that like stuff like that is the ultimate form of flattery. You know, if someone wants to take your shit and fuck with it, let them.
Hell yeah. LJ, tell me about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3.
Well, rumor has it that Part 3 won't betray the fans of the original, but there will be new elements that bring a new happiness. So, yeah, I guess they're kind of staying the course with the story of the original, but since so much time has passed, they're going to add some new elements. I don't know specifics or anything, but that's kind of cool that they're not branching off too hardcore.
Yeah, I having played the first one and having played Rebirth, this is not really too much of a shock. They kind of did this with those games as well. Obviously, the original Final Fantasy VII was not 2/3 of the game was not 130 hours long. So obviously they're already taking liberties with some of this stuff to drag things out, and obviously the open world helps with that and everything. But I've been like generally very happy with everything that they've done with it so far, and I love this universe and these characters and this story, so I'm excited for it. I don't know about you guys.
I haven't even played Rebirth yet.
Did you play Remake?
I played the first one.
The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't played
played
Rebirth, though.
Yeah. Rebirth is great. I just think that it's too long. Like, it took me... Like, I didn't even do everything in the game, and it took me 80 hours to finish it.
Jeez.
So, I don't know why they're doing this. They didn't have to put all this shit in there. Now some people love it, but it's not me. Like I have too much shit to do. And I'm sure LJ, you have kids, like you definitely have shit to do. So like when you're chipping away 45 minutes a day or something like that, it's going to take you a freaking half a year to beat this game.
Right.
And some people dig
else,
that. Some people don't. I prefer to get a little bit more gaming. Like I prefer more games than one game that lasts forever. So anyway, I commented on this earlier about Astrobot, but it looks like according to Chris Drang from Circana, which was the old MPD group, I think it's called, which tracks sales of games and stuff like that. He had said that apparently in its first week, Astrobot has sold 21% higher than Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And I imagine that he made this comparison because they're similar in terms of like their genre and their appeal to certain audiences. So that's pretty good because I think Ratchet and Clank was a good game, and I think that people really enjoyed it. So I'm glad to see that it appears to be doing well and people seem to be loving it. This seems like I feel like this is one of those games that might have the ability to have maybe a longer tail on it, almost like a Little Big Planet or something, where it's like, yeah, a lot of people are going to buy it at launch, but for a long time, people are going to buy a PlayStation or they're going to have kids or whatever, and they're going to buy this game to play with their family or if somebody new buys a PlayStation, it's going to be on the list of games that maybe they want to play along with their God of Wars and their whatever because it's part of the zeitgeist. So, I think that it's great that we're getting higher sales here, and I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm glad that it's doing well. I'm also really stoked on that Ratchet game. That was a really great game. So. This isn't to put the Ratchet game down. I think it just shows that there's an interest in games like this. And
and I think that it should be said that I think this week it was second only to NBA 2K24 or 25 or whatever the fuck we're on now.
Dude,
so that's pretty impressive.
And we got to remember too, there were much fewer PS5s in people's homes when Ratchet came out. So
right. So there's an element to that too.
I think if Ratchet had been released right now, it probably
would sell a little better.
True.
Seen a lot better sales than what they did when.
But even still, I don't want to take anything away from Astrobot. I think it's doing well.
Yeah. And I don't want to take anything away from Ratchet. And that did good.
Sure.
I'm just kidding.
Hopefully Astrobot, they come out and they say it sold 10 million copies because I would love to get another one of these games. I don't want one every year. I don't need one every year. Take your time. Make a good 15-hour experience every 2 or 3 years that gives me the same thing, but a little bit more. Yeah. And I'll be happy. Moving on.
Yes, sir.
The new PS5 firmware update just came out, and it has a few things called like the Welcome Hub, new party features, and adaptive charging for controllers. So apparently this Welcome Hub is the only thing about this that I was really all that interested in because I don't care about saving power and I don't use party chat at all or party features at all on my PlayStation. So now you guys might because you play multiplayer games. I rarely ever do. But the Welcome Hub is kind of cool. Like it allows you to customize that Explore screen, which is the first thing that pops up when you boot your PlayStation, to have shit that you want to look at on there. I don't know about you guys, but every time that screen comes up, I see nothing. I literally immediately go to the next tab. I don't fucking look at anything on it because I don't give a crap about any of it. It's all some shit that's served to me from the gods at PlayStation that think I need to buy, Fortnite skin pack version, whatever, or, some user-generated video about a guy on Grand Theft Auto driving a car through a ring of fire or some crap. I don't know. Like none of the stuff that appears on there is relevant to me hardly ever at all. So I'm glad that this, and I haven't played around with this yet, but I'd like to dick around with it to see if there's any way for me to customize it in a fashion that is going to be helpful to me as a gamer, not just the online masses, as it were. So I don't know how you guys feel about this particular feature. As far as I understand, like I don't know anything about the party features, but the adaptive charging is
Yeah.
just a way for it to like save power whenever it's charging your controllers, which probably just means that like maybe at night it'll charge slower or something, so it doesn't use as much power or some shit. I don't know. I don't give a crap about the environment, so fuck it. Anyway, I'm joking. Obviously, I care about things, but how do you guys think about this stuff?
I agree. I was most excited about the hub. I think uh, because I have a family where everyone uses the PlayStation, I think the like 3D audio profile for like
Oh yeah,
individual
I forgot about
users would
that.
be
Yeah.
nice. And then, yeah, the only thing about the adaptive charging that I heard was it just like will help the batteries of the controllers last longer instead
Aw.
of, so it like charges it more at first and then less on the back end or something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
I
kind of
believe
the
that.
idea there. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm down with that because the
same.
PS5 controller batteries, the Sense batteries, are fucking terrible. I mean, I'm
So
charging my
bad.
DualSense like every single day, and I think that the Edge is like even worse, even though it's a $200 controller. Fred, what do you think?
Yeah. It's nice that it's a firmware update that actually is more than just a performance update. You know, they're still doing stuff. This plays right into the mo that the PlayStation is like they just they put out a fucking system, the UI's there, they give us something, and then just as the years come by, they keep supporting and putting more features and better things into their console through these firmware updates. And it's nice to know that when you buy a product like the PlayStation 5 from day one, that it's going to be supported until, even well into the PS6 era. And these firmware updates are never anything that seem to take away anything. With the exception of getting rid of the Linux capability on the PS4, maybe that they
For the PS3,
had.
yeah, that was awesome. I love that they had that, and plus like the printer connectivity was fucking rad. Dude, the
So
PS3
random
at
and
the
weird.
beginning, the PS3 at the beginning was a nightmare, but also a gem in so many different ways.
Yeah, but I think it's all. I think this is all good news. We can move on to the next point.
All right, LJ, take us home here with these last couple news
Okay.
points that you've kind of submitted.
Okay, so they're pretty short, straightforward. According to Jeff Grubb, there's a state of play coming 9/24/2024. So yeah, not too much longer if that rumor is true, which that's all it is. But he's fairly reliable in the past. Any thoughts on those or
His,
that?
as far as I know, he doesn't have any relatives that are related to the animal that lives in the ground, the insect. But he does have a lot of relatives, figuratively speaking, in the video game industry that give him contacts about these types of things. So he's usually pretty reliable, like you say. And I don't know, like, if you guys have any instincts or hopes or dreams about this state of play, but you would have to imagine that they're going to announce something that is going to be showcased with respect to like a game with respect to the PS5 Pro. Maybe we'll get a Ghost of Tsushima
Yes.
2 kind of announcement. Although you would think that would be a little bit more of like a bombastic kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, I would love to see something. Anything. Like maybe what Naughty Dog is working on, because they've been basically radio silent since Last of Us 2 came out because of the whole snafu with Last of Us Online. Maybe even what Cory Barlog's working on over at Sony Santa Monica.
Or even Bend.
I don't know.
Blue Point.
Blue Point, yeah, that's a good one. Or even any third party shit. Like what's going on? What's going on with some of that stuff? So hopefully it's not just like BS kind of patches for games that exist already for PS5 Pro or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited. That's in a few days here.
There's definitely going to be some some PS5 Pro talk for sure.
No doubt.
And that'll probably chew up at least a quarter, if not half, of the state of play. And the rest hopefully isn't My guess is they're going to talk about games that are going to be upgraded for the PS5 and show more stuff on those. But I would like to see something new and something refreshing. I don't know what that's going to be, but hopefully a first-party developer game or something. What I don't want to see is a developer update on the status of Concord.
Well,
You know
that
what I
thing is
mean? Then be like,
fucking
oh,
dead.
we're really sorry this thing
Yeah.
happened. You know, the plan is this moving forward. We want to take the time to state of play to at least let you guys know how much we appreciate you buying the game. I don't just fucking bury it. Like I don't want to hear any more about it. But like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised though if there's some sort of weird shit like that. Can't really think of anything else. I don't think we're going to see anything from Naughty Dog.
Wolverine.
Maybe
Some of that
Wolverine.
shit already leaked,
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, we've already seen some of that. So if you found
Death
that,
Stranding 2.
yeah, Death Stranding 2 is a real
That
possibility.
makes sense.
I think
A little bit
that
of that action.
I think that actually would be something that we can almost put on the probable list at this point because we're getting close to the end of this year, and we've already gotten some pretty lengthy game trailers. Not gameplay shit, but cinematic trailers and shit for this game. And Kojima's been pretty radio silent, so I would imagine, yeah. And we're coming up on like Halloween and like that fall season where like things are. And Death Stranding's always kind of teetered on the weird and strange and spooky in a little way, like with the environments and stuff. I think a Death Stranding 2 trailer would be dope right now. I like that, LJ. Good call. But
Right on.
all right, next one.
Last news point. I will admit I haven't played Helldivers in about probably a month now, which is sucks to say out loud. But the latest Helldivers 2 patch dropped. I guess they buffed a lot of stuff, and from what I've read online and talking to some of my friends, the reviews are pretty positive. And there's a new war bond coming out called Chemical Agents or something to that degree. So yeah, I'm hoping to play later this week, maybe this weekend, and test some of these out. Yeah, and just get back into it because it is a blast. But it's definitely fallen off, and like anything, there's different viewpoints on where people think certain weapons should be rated this way or whatever. But yeah, I'm excited to try it out.
Cool. And for anyone watching us on the YouTube, LJ's PSN is not Joe Pete 4, and his name is not Josh. I just was not able to update this on the YouTube in time, and we said fuck it. So that was when Josh was a guest on the show. So you just have to exist this way. LJ's handle is blip_McDougal, I believe.
Correct.
So if you want to find him on there and see what he's playing, you can check it out. I'm Anchorless_81, and Jake is JakeSaw01. Jake, you had something else to say here?
No, I was just gonna say that I haven't played Helldivers enough for this to really matter to me, but I'm glad that people are really liking this because I know that the player base has fallen off a little bit since it started. But yeah, so I think that was the last of our news points. I know it looks like Fred or maybe LJ here dropped in Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster in as a new game coming out this week, which is exciting for people who have never played Dead Rising. I've never played it. This was an Xbox kind of game, and I never played it. It's a zombie game where it's like you're in a mall and you're fighting zombies. I don't know. But apparently people really like it, and so if you're interested in that, run out there and get that. Other than that, it's pretty much the end of the show. I guess my final thoughts would be, I don't know what you guys think about these rad headphones that I got. These are the PlayStation Pulse headphones, and I actually really like them. I think they look fucking stupid, but I really like they're really comfortable. They got these like big bulbous, like super patty, comfortable things, and they surround your ears. And the way that they're designed, they go over the PSVR 2 perfectly. Like it's almost like they were designed to just slap on there. So, and it's cool. I can use like a cable like this directly into my interface. I don't have to use the dongle thing to do wireless or whatever. So when I'm playing Half-Life Alyx, I just literally take this cable and plug it into the headset rather than try and fuck with all the audio settings. But I'm enjoying that. Excited to play a little bit more. Excited to get back into some of these other games. Real life stuff, like my fucking house is being tore apart right now, so that kind of sucks. But and I'm glad all the contractors are gone when we started to record this podcast because it would have been annoying as shit. Other than that, like, yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever just like taken all of your money, put it into a big pile, and caught it on fire, but that's what I feel like right now. But that's all I have to say about myself. How about you guys? LJ, what's on the docket for you? How you feeling about the end of this episode?
Love that headset. I've had it since day one. The only gripe I have is like the foam part that goes over your ear got fucked up, but they're easily replaceable, which is nice. You don't have to buy a whole new thing. My final thoughts, and this is a terrible thing to end on because I mean, we can continue to talk about it, but I don't want you two to feel obligated to respond to this. But I do have some thoughts on the PS5 Pro that I've marinated this.
Yeah, go for it.
So that's going to be my final thought. So kind of in the middle where I think I'm like you folks where I'm not buying it. It's just not in the price range. I did see something where basically, because a lot of the gripe is like the graphics don't really look that much better to, account for that price tag. And I saw something with like computer graphics, like if you keep like multiplying them by like times 10 or whatever, it becomes harder and harder to be noticeable to the eye. And we've kind of reached that point. That's why they're pointing out like the little things in the background. So I don't know. I want to see one in person before, like, maybe that'll change my mind. But the other thing that you two didn't bring up that I wanted to add, this is such an Apple move. It doesn't even come with the fucking vertical stand. So, like, if you really want a PS5 Pro that has a vertical stand and a disk drive, you're looking at over $800, which is insane. So I have a family member who works for one of the PlayStation studios, and we've talked ad nauseum about the PlayStation 5. And what I told him was like, I feel like it's Sony's like, well, we're charging a bunch because of inflation. And it's like, okay, I get that, but it's also not fucking reading the room. It's like, okay, well, inflation is affecting everyone and all of our shit. And if I have to spend more money on food and gas and clothes or whatever, it's like I'm gonna have even less money for a PlayStation 5 Pro. So it just feels very like one-sided. It's like, I don't know. I feel like they're only focusing and looking at a certain demographic who can afford this. And then the last thing I'm going to leave is a little bit of conspiracy here. What if it's something to chew on? What if Sony is making the price high to prepare us for the PS6 price, right? So it's like, well, the PS5 Pro is $700, so like, $900 is totally reasonable for the PS6. You know what I mean? I don't know, just something to think on. But anyways, that's all I have to say.
I like that conspiracy because I was also conspiracizing. I was also coming with conspiracies about the price, but almost the opposite, where it was just like they're going to price this thing high so they can move more of the regular units because it seems like a better deal. But like, there is something to be said about the perception of a deal, right? In advertising. There's just something we said about that. Like, LJ, I actually wouldn't even be surprised if what you're saying is a little more on point. But my guess would be is that they take the PS5 Pro, eventually bump that shit down to $500, and then when the PS6 rolls out, make it $700, and be like,
right,
this is what we rolled the Pro out at, and now you can have a PS6 for that price. And then that's the card in the palm. That's the trick. That's the illusion.
I mean, there's no fucking way that the PS6 is cheaper than the PS5 Pro.
Exactly.
It's definitely not going to happen. I mean, especially because you're talking 3.5 more years before we get that console. Maybe even 4 more years if it doesn't come out till 2028. And by then, I don't think that the price of things is going to go down that much. And this technology is only going to get more expensive, especially if they start doing because there's a lot of shit going on in the Silicon world now where people are trying to get factories moved into the States and like all this other stuff. And all of that is going to increase the price of all this stuff, even outside of inflation. And look, I mean, it's only ever really happened one time where the price of the next console was cheaper than the price of the one before it. And that was the PS4, where it was $400 when the PS3 was $600 when it came out. And so I don't imagine something really crazy would have to happen for them to come out, especially if they're still on top. Like, they have nothing to lose. And like let's be clear. I fully believe that this PS5 Pro is going to sell a shitload, even though it's $700. And I think that, and to make a kind of a comment on what you were saying earlier, LJ, about like the demographic or whatever, I think the way that they're looking at this is that they're just looking at it as like a premium product. Like they're not trying to hit the whole market. People like us as gamers are kind of projecting that onto them. Whereas like if you think about, something like, cars or whatever, like because somebody has the money to buy a Lamborghini when I only have the money to buy a freaking, whatever Ford Fusion or whatever the hell it is, doesn't mean that the Lamborghini shouldn't exist and that person shouldn't pay that much money for it because I'm not willing to pay for it because I can only afford the Ford Fusion. Now that's completely separate from the argument of, is $700 a reasonable price for this console? There's another argument to be made there. I have to trust Sony and like some of these guys like Digital Foundry and stuff that are saying like, yes, the hardware that we're putting in here is the amount of money that it costs and all of that is necessitating the price point. But I do think that Sony is making money on this console. I don't think that there's a reality where Sony's selling this to you for $700 and they're not making money on it. I think probably their margins are a little bit higher on the PS5 Pro, but that's probably because they know they're going to sell less of them. So they're trying to sort of split and I'm not defending anything that Sony's doing. I'm just trying to sort of say like what has been in my mind about this whole thing. And everybody I think here is on the same page where it's just like, would I like to have one? Sure. Do I imagine that it probably looks better in person than it does in a compressed YouTube video? Almost certainly, but it's not worth it to me. Maybe next year when they come out and they're like, this is the only console that'll play GTA 6 at 60 frames. Then I might be in a rock and a hard place, especially if I've got a PS5 that's on its last leg or it's working a little funny, or maybe I want a second console anyway for some reason, or maybe I give my PS5 to somebody else and I'm going to buy a new one. Like, then I might be willing to spend the extra money because where we get into a pinch when you get more power is that developers, I don't want to say they get lazy, but they kind of get lazy. Where it's like they're no longer trying to squeeze the juice as much as they can out of this console. They're like, I've got the extra power, I'm just gonna fucking use it, and it'll just run shittier on the base PS5. That is its own conspiracy, and we could sit here and argue about this for days whether or not this actually happens. But I'm going to sit here and say, if you've seen The Last of Us run on PlayStation 3, you know that these developers can get more out of these consoles than they actually do. Think about the way that Horizon looks on PS5 versus some of these other games that are coming out that are running like shit.
What Naughty Dog was able to do with The Last of Us on the PS3 is absolutely unbelievable.
Right. So, like, should I be now? To be fair, we're in a whole different ballpark in terms of 4K versus 1080p. You're quadrupling the number of pixels that you're presenting on screen, and yes, that is in ray tracing. Obviously, blah 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 blah. So, those are my brief, I guess, responses to your comments, LJ. I don't know if you have any other comments you want to make about the PS5 Pro, but it sounds like you're on the same page as the rest of us in that.
For sure.
It's too much of an ask right now. If I had $700 burning a hole in my pocket, maybe I'd buy one. But and don't get me wrong, the draw is there. Like shiny new console, new thing. Like I could definitely see myself buying one. But yeah, not when I'm already spending so much money on real life stuff.
It is tempting.
It's so tempting, dude.
Yeah, especially because my controllers like all have really bad battery life now, so I might as well buy a new console because it's gonna come with a controller. You know what I mean?
Like part of me is, yeah, dude. Part of me is like, I've wanted an Indian motorcycle for like $14,000 for so long, and my AC just cost $2,000. I just paid for something else that cost me an arm and a leg, and then it's just like, why don't I just spend $700 on a PS4 5 Pro? Like, get something that I really want for my money. You know, granted, I need.
But wouldn't it be so disappointing if you get that thing and you're like, oh, it doesn't look that much better?
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
possible.
You spend all that much money on. No, to be fair, the biggest thing is having the frame rate and having also the shit like ray tracing. The resolution doesn't really mean much to me as far like, yeah, there is clarity there, but like when I switch between performance mode and fidelity mode in terms of the resolution, I already can't really tell that much of a difference. I don't know if it's my eyes are fucked up or maybe my TV's not that great. I don't know. But you can definitely tell a difference on things like ray tracing, lighting, stuff like that, which you would get that boost in performance there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that would be worth ponying up for. But yeah, not right now.
Shit, I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just times are changing, and again, we've said time and time again on the podcast that this is a hobby. This is something that we get to do. It's not something that we have to do, and it is unfortunately a way that a lot of us find solace and find peace and relaxation in our lives now. You know what I mean? So it is important to have, but do you need the $700 shiny thing to continue that journey? No. Will you get it eventually? I think we all will eventually. You know, it's just I don't think that it makes sense financially for any of us to just throw $700 at this thing. Wait till it comes out. Wait to hear what people are saying about it. You know?
The problem for me is like the PS4 Pro, by the time I wish I had one, which was the last year of the PS4, you couldn't find them anywhere. They were gone. They didn't make them anymore.
Huh.
You can only buy the Pace PS4. So like I don't know if that's going to happen with this. That would be the only thing that would pull me in, but yeah, I just think that I'll just deal with it. My had my base PS4 all the way through till now. It still works. My base PS5 works fucking great. I have no complaints about it. Yeah. So all right, let's wrap it up here. I'm getting freaking hungry, and we've been going for a while. LJ, it was awesome having you on the show. Be happy to have you back at some point. Let us know if there's anything you'd like to talk about specifically, even if you're just gonna want to get on and shoot the shit about, I don't know, whatever, punk rock or baseball or something. I don't know. I don't have much to say about that. But talking games is always fun, and I'd like to get more of your takes because obviously we've heard some of your stuff here on the show, but I don't know everything about what you like about games. So sometime we should get down and dirty with that. Fred, you good?
Thanks for listening to episode 343 of PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. We'll be back next week. If you're a patron of the show, you will get versions of the show sometimes earlier. We don't promise that. So go to patreon.com/PS This Is Awesome. Become a $1 a month member. inflate our egos just a little bit. When we get to 10 subscribers, I would be thrilled. We have so few subscribers, and we're not going to pretend we're like fucking loaded with subscribers. We're close. We're very close to 10. So just be one of the people that pushes us to the next echelon of the show. So we're not asking for a lot. I know that we have listeners. I see the statistics. Do it. Do it. Don't be a cheap ass. Throw $1 at us. Outside of that, I hope that I feel better next week.
Or even just subscribe to YouTube. That'd help too.
Fuck yeah.
Anywho. Well, I don't know. Has this been updated? The tagline at the end?
What do you mean?
The wise.
No.
Okay. So we're just going to skip that out this week.
No, we can't. We've never missed it.
Well, we can just make something up. Like Zen Pinball, Zenless Zone Zero, and Zoo Tycoon. P.S.
This is awesome.
This is awesome.
awesome.